Hey everybody, this is Debbie with Cultural Alignment Solutions, and I am so excited because we are launching today our very first podcast. Dan, what is the name of that podcast?
Today's podcast and our podcast going forward is action-based leaders.
Absolutely.
Super excited.
Absolutely. We are super excited. And Dan, I'm going to let you do the interview piece because I could sit and talk about this stuff all day. So you're going to keep us reeled in and right on target as we talk about Cultural Alignment Solutions, who it is, what we do, who we do it for, but also about our action-based leaders. So you okay
Awesome.
if I pass the baton to you? Have at it.
Yeah, so jumping into this, action-based leaders is a concept, Debbie, that you introduced me to, and I love it. And I want to dive in. I want others to really get a sense of this, because as we go out there and we start talking to more and more companies, I'm finding more and more that they're struggling with how do you get teams to do things? How do you get them unstuck in where they're at? How do you make sure that they're accountable for their actions? How do you make sure that they grow? Yeah. What does that look like in an organization? Talk to me first about Cultural Alignment Solutions and what it is and what it does.
Yeah. Let me back up a little bit, because most people go, where in the heck did Cultural Alignment Solutions come from, right? I did not start Cultural Alignment Solutions with this, I'm going to start my own business. I had no desire to start my own business. I wanted to work for a company. And I actually did. I worked for a consulting company. The owner of that company actually went on, 3 of their companies hit Inc. 500. They came to me and said, hey, this company's yours. And I will never forget that day. I went, no, that's not what I want to do. So did I know what I was doing? No. Was I fearful? No. But no wasn't an option. And I truly believe that is why Cultural Alignment Solutions succeeded, because one, I actually had to come up with a whole new name. I had no idea what name I was going to do. I just knew we did cultural stuff. I knew I liked the word alignment, and it was all a solution. And that is literally how the name came to be. Little did I know 13 years later what would have happened. I am glad I did not have a fallback. I am glad that no was not an option, because all of that propelled us to have the organization that we have now. So that's a little bit of history about where Cultural Alignment Solutions came from. The other side of that is why corporate, not life coaching, right? Why are we in the corporate world? To be very honest, I was in coaching school, which, let's go back, I was chosen to be the one to go to coaching school to get it on our resume. It was while I was in coaching school that the owner said, hey, here's the company. So I was still learning about coaching, Dan, and I'll be honest, I am a very, I can be an emotional, but I don't want to get all in the emotional stuff. And I was sitting in coaching school and watching everything go on with life coaching, and I made the decision, I'm going into corporate coaching because I don't want anything emotional. Have you ever thought that before?
Yeah, you don't want to deal with it, right? What everybody else is going to be through, right?
Yeah.
Let's just get down to business.
Exactly. And here's the thing. It did not take long for me to realize that there is just much emotion in corporate as there is in life. Why? Because we are emotional beings, period.
Yeah, you can't take the person out of the business.
You absolutely can't. And the statement, the myth that people believe is, oh, this is business. It's not personal. That is, excuse my language, that's a bullshit lie. It's bullshit.
It
right?
is.
And so therefore, that is when things for me really started shifting and changing, going, wait a minute, it is emotions. Actions and thoughts and feeling, it all stimulates emotion. And so that's the whole energy leadership. The core of what it is that we do is actually the base of that. And I am honored every single day to get up and be able to go, how, and work with my clients, our clients, right? How do we get shit done, still have emotions to have to navigate through, frustrations, triggers, but also gratefulness, exciting, and groundedness, and how do we put all of that together and have fulfilled, passion-filled lives? And that's what we get to do here at Cultural Alignment Solutions.
All right, so that started way back when? When was that?
Yeah, that was, oh gosh, you're having me go back into the, I don't know, 2000.
Into the vault.
Yeah, I started doing all of this about 2008. Cultural alignment solutions, I believe that was like right around 2012, 2011, 2012 was when it all
And
birthed.
and 2012 was when you went through coaching school at that point.
It's when I graduated. I started the end of 2011, graduated in 12. Yep.
Awesome. So then, all right, run me into like, or lead into then action-based leaders. What's an
Yeah.
action-based leader and why does it matter?
Yep. When I first started my coaching business or the business with Cultural Alignment Solutions, everything was a la carte. Any client could choose anything, right? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I can. Pick me. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but you can do everything. And I will tell you what my mentor met her while I was at coaching school. You know her very, very well. We all love her. I cannot go without saying her name, but Evie changed my life. I said everybody should have an Evie in their life. She really honed me in on making what it is that I do duplicatable. And as I sat with that, one of the things that I really realized inside of organizations is people want to get things done. Action, accountability, follow up. And I started realizing it was coming up all the time in my coaching sessions, action, accountability, follow up. And probably it was about 2018, 2019, I just literally was like, oh, action based leaders, meaning leaders that think of action first, right? How are we going to execute? Are leaders that know how to get accountability and get follow up. And it even grew from there because now we redefine accountability. And action based leaders actually are accountable first for the success of their team before they can even remotely expect their team to be accountable. So that's where it came from.
Now that's interesting. So run down that path a little bit more on hey, they got to be accountable to themselves first before their team.
Yes, actually accountable to themselves first. In that though, there's even another deeper piece. It's me looking at Dan saying, Dan, I am accountable to you for your success. What is it that you need from me? And I'm going to make sure you get it. If my team cannot rely on me to be accountable, they don't have to be accountable. And that's the whole basis of the teaching that we come from. If you do not see accountability on your team, the question you should be asking is, where am I not accountable to them?
That's interesting because I'll guarantee, right, so many people are not thinking that way.
No. Listen, I will never forget one of my clients, and this happened shortly after I was getting started. And this is, again, where all of that stuff was birthed out of. I get this phone call, and he goes, hey, I need you to get down here and tell my team who I am so they know how to work with me. That was literally his call. And inside, I knew it wasn't going to go that way. I didn't have the language like I do now. I just knew I was up for the fun. I said, all right, be right there. And it took about 3 months, and I will never forget the day he came I was at the office working because I went in about once a week. He showed up, he came into the conference room, and he literally shut the door, and he turned around and looked at me because I truly thought, oh, I'm out of here. He's letting me go. But he turned around, and he had tears in his eyes, and he said, this has nothing to do with them, does it? And I just looked at him and smiled, and he goes, this has everything to do with me and how I support them. And I said, welcome. Now the work can begin. And it took 3 months to get there.
So then what happened in those 3 months then? What was that work?
A lot of working with the team. We did 360s. We did a lot of assessments. I did a lot of interviews. They were a construction company, and they did commercial construction. So I went on sites. So there was a lot of work going on behind the scenes, just gathering data. And when you're interviewing the employees and seeing the same thing over and over and over and over again, he and I had a lot of one-on-one conversations, a lot of coaching conversations as to why certain behaviors, patterns kept coming up. So that's what got him to the point.
Now, do you find that's similar in every organization you go into? What's kind of common around the action-based leaders model that you find in each organization?
Yeah, it's funny you said that because I actually have changed my entire way of going into an organization. Back then, I would show up. Now it's a whole lot quicker than 3 months. I'll just tell you that. Back then, I didn't have the intake process that I have now. Because here's the thing, I'm just now to a stage in the business that we can move quicker, right? We've got action, accountability, follow up, and play. We've got our forms in play, intake forms, everything like that. Let me tell you what happens now. Organization calls, and they're like, and 9 times out of 10, an organization is calling because there is some form of leadership development piece that's missing. Whether it usually comes down to 4 areas: time, conflict, communication, and accountability. Those we will see those 4 come up all the time, right? Time, we relate that to choice management. There's either some type of conflict issue going on, people are not communicating well, which ultimately feeds into conflict, and then people are not accountable, right? They're not meeting their deadlines, they're not getting things done. So 9 times out of 10, those are the 4 things that we're working with. When I'm brought in with a team, whoever brings me in is the point. There is quite a bit of intake and questioning that goes on because I will tell you this: when a leader calls us in, at that point, the leader is right.
It doesn't matter which way it goes, right? Yeah. You have to start
the leader is always right in their mind. It is always the team. And I'll be honest, where we will get in a conversation is what we're going to uncover the covers. We're going to find out what's under the covers. However, what if once the covers are folded back, you don't like what you're seeing? What next? And I now plan it way up here in the beginning, and then the conversations go a little bit deeper. We'll unfold those, right, when people call and we talk to them. But the conversations go a little bit deeper. But the reality is, we are going to get underneath the covers. What really is it that you want to do? Because I already know they're going to be involved in what's under the covers.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And for years, I didn't know how to put that into the beginning conversations. And then you'd get there and you're going, now what do I do? How do I tell them? We just take care of that up front now.
So then what kind of organizations do you work with? Like what works best? Big, small, like what's the kind of firmographics or industries? Where do you specialize?
Yes. Okay. Broad statement there. I have national accounts across, so therefore I have what's called multi-unit organizations. So whether they have different plants in different areas that need to operate with the same culture. I have also worked with teams with 8 to 10 people. I enjoy mid to large organizations is actually what I love doing, and I really like it when there is conflict. I just eat that up because to me, that's fun. I just eat it up. And a lot of people, it stresses them out, but that's what I want to see. But larger organizations that need to reel it in and then getting into the individual teams inside of those larger organizations is, to me, satisfying. There's a saying out there that it comes from the top. And yes, that's true, right? Everything flows from the top down, and I get all of that. However, there are also a lot of sub-worlds inside of large organizations. And you can't go in there with this ideal, I'm going to get to the CEO, and then everything's going to... While that sounds good, there are people that have to make paychecks, and this group might be 20 people. Okay, let's make this group culturally sound, and we can do that inside of organizations. And I do it every day, and I love it, and I love watching that happen. Maybe that's part of the challenge now that you're asking me that question. It's like, because our planet is nothing but subworlds. I mean, it just, that's...
Well, and that's it's interesting around that, the whole conflict piece, because every organization, no matter who it is, where you are, there's always that subculture.
Yeah.
Especially in the larger organizations where you don't have the leader involved in the day-to-day or in every single or remote, plants or facilities or wherever they are, the culture starts to form itself.
That's it. Always will. And culture is culture is culture. It can change by one hire.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not on it. And I don't know about you. I love Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. And then a lot of people don't know. You and I were talking about this the other day,
Yep.
how he had to write that follow-up book, right? Built to Last.
Built to Last.
That's the magic, is understanding that piece. That is why Cultural Alignment Solutions is who we are, why action-based leaders, and why action, accountability, and follow-up is because people think that when they reach or attain this awesome team in leadership, that they're done. We're here. We've arrived.
We've arrived.
Exactly. Every company that Jim Collins wrote about in Good to Great is what?
Gone.
Gone. Right? For
Yep.
one form or reason. That's why he had to write the follow-up book, because he, in further research, right, when it played out, naturally so, they didn't factor in that when you reach that level of leadership, it has to be maintained. Mediocre is what our brain goes to when we wake up. We have to be challenged, in all honesty, to excellence.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, right? I mean, the default standard really starts to come out in people. And,
Right.
And again, that becomes a personal thing, is once you reach a certain level, you get a little fat with the cash and then a little bit lax at work, and things are like, oh yeah, everybody else will take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
But up until that company has a culture that's continuously growing, expanding, evolving, then it's too easy to fall back on mediocrity, and that just starts to creep in as a culture.
Yep. And I just fully believe that is why an outside influence is very important to organizations. So that's why I feel Cultural Alignment Solutions has a place in a larger organization. Because here's what happens a lot of time in larger organizations, and the ones that I work for have embraced against that. And I'll just tell you, you can hire in coaching into your organization. There's a lot of people that have, right? They hire it in, meaning hire the employee to work.
They have an internal coach.
They have an internal coach.
Yep.
You can have internal training, right? All of that can come internal. Comes across as more cost effective. However, what are you paying for? And that's where I want to challenge people, because when you hire it in, 9 times out of 10, what department does it run through?
HR.
Exactly. And as sad as it is, but as true as it is, what is the reputation of HR's job?
They're just the fun police.
They're to protect the organization, not just the fun police. Their job, yeah, it is, they can do the fun police, but their job ultimately is to protect the organization, period. So because fundamentally, that is the role of HR. And now you're bringing in a coach that is supposed to facilitate you through leadership development, building your team. Who in their right mind as a leader is going to reveal to HR that I have a leadership issue? I don't know how to navigate conflict. I don't know how to communicate as well as I want. Who's going to do that?
No, everybody's going to be too scared, right?
Right. Because you have literally just said, here you go, HR, put this in my file.
Right.
Human nature is human nature. So having an outside source, and when I say outside source, like us, like Cultural Alignment Solutions, there are several, I call them self-proclaimed coaches, or people that say they're coaches, but they're not certified. So there's a little bit of difference. I'm totally pro all of them. It doesn't matter. But for us, because we're certified, we are held to a code of ethics of confidentiality that our certification rides on. I'm not losing my certification, are you?
Nope.
No, I paid too much money for it and went too long to school. There's no way. So therefore, that is a plus that organization is bringing on. Now, we as a company have worked really hard, and Dan, you were there at the infancy of that, and now we've really got it down into what we call directional coaching. And there's a very, very clear method that we do with that at Cultural Alignment Solutions, and it's very protective to the employee, but it's also very supportive to the organization, and we both are getting action, accountability, and follow-up. And it's an art, and we execute it. In all honesty, we execute it really well, and it works. and people win. It's that level 5 win that we all like to look for. Win, 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 win.
So what does that win look like? Like once an organization you've been working with for a while, like what then happens? Like what's the magical transformation that, they go from having time management issues, conflict issues, communication issues. What then does an organization that has action-based leaders in it look like?
Oh, it's so funny you said that because I have to tell you what happened the other day. I was on the call with our client. It is a multi-unit, so they have basically not basically, they have restaurants all over the United States. And I'm on the phone with support and I'm listening, and it's the team that I work with on the support side. And to hear them say, here's how we followed up, Debbie, with the action accountability follow up, and here's what's in play, and here's when they will get back with us on what we need done. When you hear an organization do that, it's like, leave me go do cartwheels outside, because that they are fully embracing everything that we're teaching. Action accountability follow up it's a mindset, it's a way to communicate, it's a way of being. Just like our right arm, just like anything that is attached to us, it's taking on the mindset of action accountability follow. I use it in my personal life. I do not leave a conversation without knowing what the next is, if it's a conversation that has some form of expectancy out of it. If we're just chit chatting, no big deal. But if there's something that needs to be done, you better believe I have action accountability follow up into play.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Now, with the podcast, right? So this is going to be going on. We're going to do this weekly.
Yep.
And we'll be interviewing, we'll bring leaders in and find out, hey, what's happening in the organization, and talk through what works, what doesn't work, and kind of pull back the curtains on how things are going in their organization. And then have a website where we're going to house the podcast and all that kind of stuff. What would make this super successful for you?
But I want to make sure that we get information out there. We live in a busy world. We live in a world that people, and you and I coach them, right? They have a lot on their platter. And then to be able to say, oh, by the way, listen to this for an hour. So I want to be able to be concise with our message. I want to get shit done.
Right. That's the whole point, right? Action-based leaders, not just, hey, let's sit around and think about it or talk about it or converse about it.
Right. That's it. Here's the other thing, too, about action-based leaders. Action-based leaders thrive, and their organizations thrive in the world of feedback. And we literally teach people how to make feedback. There are two words that do not belong together in a sentence, and it is, here comes my favorite word again. I think by now everybody knows. It's bullshit. See my thing. Do not put constructive criticism together ever again. How do you criticize somebody constructively? And go look up Webster's definition of the word criticism.
It's almost like constructive is building up, criticism is breaking down. So anytime you're building up and breaking down at the same time, you're not actually accomplishing anything. Yes. It's not going anywhere.
Yes. And one of them under criticism, it's I am bringing information to you based off of my opinion, point of view, and how I see it. So with that, we have shifted it to feedback. Feedback is very neutral, friendly. It's feedback. But feedback is reciprocal. It is not one way. And that's another huge difference with action-based leaders, is living in a world of, I expect feedback from you. You expect feedback from me. If we're not getting feedback, we're not our best.
Yeah, I think that, and I've been in situations like that where I'm not getting the feedback that I want and that I'm asking for, and then all of a sudden it's just like, okay, where are we at? Right. Waiting for a review. Some companies wait a year before they do performance reviews or provide that feedback. Yep. Some in 90 days, and without it, I think it's killer.
And even 90 days, I feel, is too long for if you are, as a company, meeting initiatives and you are only even revisiting them at 90 days, I'm not saying that's good, bad, right, or wrong, but I'm really going to challenge, are you getting the optimum best, period? Are you getting true action accountability follow up, and are we executing and getting done? And that's the biggest piece. Um, there is no better compliment. I will never forget. I was at a GM conference for one of my companies. It was huge. People were in for all over because they brought people in with their organization, but it was the first time that I was being introduced to the rest of the company, right? I had been working with the leadership team for a while because sometimes, Dan, in all honesty, I might be working with the leadership team before anybody else even knows me,
Yeah.
because there's work that has to be done there before you roll out. I feel the worst thing you can do is get all excited as a leadership team. We've gone on a retreat. We've read this book. What is it? We're going to go put this operating system in.
Yep.
And everybody comes back and it crashes and burns, right? Within 1 quarter. Worst thing you could ever do to your organization, because what'd you just do? You instilled lack of trust, all these types of things. We didn't fulfill it. So had been working with the team for a year, the leadership team. Comes conference time, the CEO walks out on the stage and literally, I'd never been introduced like this before. He stands up, he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet my new no bullshitter coach, Debbie Forcier-Lynn." And I remember just going, did he just say that from the stage? And it now has just become a norm for me, because I am of no good to any organization if I just don't ask and be curious. I don't have to know your business, right? I work in the HVAC world. I work in long-term care, from rehab centers. I work in therapy. I work in restaurant. I'm sitting there trying to think of all the industries. Bakery, right? One of the largest bakeries in the United States. Just go there. That's one of our clients. I don't have to know your industry to be curious and ask why. And that's our role as cultural alignment solutions. If they're wanting alignment, and if they are wanting to have a culture that is values based, that is based off of even passion, right? Going as deep as passion, we're just going to ask why. How's it working? Right? We dig further up underneath that.
Love it. Awesome. I think we're coming up on the end of this one. So this is our initial podcast, our kickoff. Really just wanted to introduce Debbie, Cultural Alignment Solutions, and Action-Based Leaders. It will be podcast, an un-newsletter as we start rolling this out, which maybe that'll be episode 2. But that'll be how everybody stays up on it. If you're interested, check out actionbasedleaders.com. You'll be able to get all the information there, and we'll be building out that site soon as we go. Debbie, any closing thoughts?
That is it. I guess the biggest thing that I would love to say is, if your team sucks, I think we can tell them why, but we'll hold that.
That will definitely maybe that'll be episode 2, so that we can go into if your team sucks, find out why.
See ya.